Yes, Thomas. Now, at least one more death reported just over an hour ago from the state of Uttar Pradesh in a city called Rampur after clashes broke out between the police and protesters earlier today. Now, the internet has been shut down in large parts of the state, including in Rampur. So it's becoming really difficult to quickly and accurately verify information. But reports from there suggest that several policemen have been injured too. Now, there are some reports of violence in Kanpur, another city in Uttar Pradesh, where police have resorted to using tear gas shells, and we're still waiting on more information about casualties there. Now, protests are underway in scores of Indian cities, even as we speak, including in places where authorities have imposed a colonial era law that bans assemblies of four or more people. Now, in fact, this law has been imposed on all of Uttar Pradesh, which is India's largest and most populous state with a population of 200 million people. And this is where we're seeing the worst of the excesses, including the death of that 8-year-old boy yesterday in Prime Minister Modi's constituency in Varanasi. Now, as you mentioned, the Prime Minister also met with his cabinet today to discuss the law and order situation. We're still waiting on more information from that meeting. The Prime Minister has yet to address the nation, although one government minister earlier today said that the government is going to start a new campaign where over the next 10 days, they will reach out to millions of families to make them more aware about this divisive law and try to quell their fears over it. But it's unclear whether that will be enough to quell the anger that we're seeing on the streets.
And Mandakini, as you mentioned there, the death toll is mounting after days of protest there. You've been out and about to talk to people. What have they been saying about their concerns?
Yes, now the use of force by authorities is pushing even more people out onto the streets. They're there to protest against this law, of course, but increasingly also to demonstrate against the brute force being deployed by the authorities. Now, we've been out and about these last few days, including today, and it's becoming clear that these protests are no longer limited to just students or members of the Muslim community. We've met housewives, we've met minors, young professionals, and even the elderly, many of who see this law as an existential crisis, a threat to the secular nature of the Indian constitution. And the fact that the police have used live fire to quell protests in many places is really angering a lot of these protesters because this outcome is rather unheard of in India, where protesting has always been part of the culture, and the authorities have rarely used this kind of force in places outside of Kashmir, the conflict zone of Kashmir and some northeastern states. So a lot of anger out there. A lot of rallies are planned for the next few days. And it looks like the government's really going to have to address the situation in order to calm people's fears over this law.